The new trailer for Superman has one of the most exciting, unique, and frankly inspirational moments that I've seen in any superhero movie or any superhero story. It comes right at the start of the trailer when we see Clark Kent agree to be interviewed as Superman by Lois Lane. And, we get the great moment where Cornsweet kind of switches from Clark Kent to Superman mode, and he starts taking questions. And I'm not referring to that moment necessarily, and nor am I referring to the moment where Superman kind of gets defensive about his simplistic goal, that he sees people that need to be saved and he's going to go save them. I understand why people are so excited about that, and I do like that moment, especially in light of, not to kick a guy while he's no longer in power, but in light of the Zack Snyder versions of Superman, where Superman seemed bummed that humans dare ask him to help them. I'm excited to see a Superman that wants to help people and wants to save people. All of that's good. But what really excites me in the trailer is what Lois Lane is doing. Because what we see Lois doing is asking Superman tough questions about what he's doing, why he's doing it, and why it matters for the rest of the world. That is exciting. Lois Lane is, in my opinion, the most important character in superhero fiction. Lois is brave and compassionate and principled. She's everything that Superman loves about humans, and everything that Clark/Superman wishes and hopes that he will be if he didn't have all those powers. Lois does all the same stuff, in principle, that Superman does. She just does it without being invincible or flying or bending steel. And that scene in which Lois interviews Clark and really grills Clark is perfect. I understand on one level that there is a difference between what we've seen so far. We've only seen bits of James Gunn's Superman and Zack Snyder's Superman, right? Like I said, Snyder's Superman is a distant god who is all power and sort of resents weak humans for asking him for that power. Because Snyder just loves strength and power. And here we see in the little bits that we've seen of Gunn's version, a version who wants to help people. And we get that wonderful bit in the trailer where a regular dude helps Superman up. And that's great. I get that. But Superman can't be just individual power. Even if it's using power the way that we want. Even if we want to fantasize about a superhero who's just going to go and do the right thing because it needs to be done regardless of what laws and red tape say. Because fundamentally, that's not that different from the Snyder Superman, and not that different from the totalitarian or authoritarian Superman, that we see in stories like Injustice, or the Earth 3 version of Ultraman, or Homelander and the Boys, and that sort of stuff. All of those versions of Superman, to one degree or another, however insane or sadistic they may or may not be, are people who think they get to act out of their power, and they act because nobody can stop them. What we're seeing here in this trailer is, Lois obviously can't beat up Superman. She doesn't have the same strength, but she has a moral clarity, and she has journalistic integrity that I think matters here, because when she's grilling Superman/Clark, what she's trying to do is, think of other people. Don't think of it just as simple as it's good or bad and I'm going to go do this thing and it's intrinsically good, because that is fundamentally terrifying. I'm moved and I'm excited that we get a scene of a journalist being a journalist, because, that is a type of fantasy in itself. If you read like the New York Times or something, you're going to see plenty of cases of journalists not really asking the tough questions of those in power. So there is a fantasy aspect there. But I'm also pleased to see that we've got a Superman here who is willing to get grilled. I mean, yeah, he's getting a little defensive about it, but the fact of the matter is that Superman is putting himself, at least in the bit of the trailer that we have here, putting himself in this position where he can be questioned. and is willing to hear somebody call him out, even if they're not all powerful. More of this dynamic is needed. Because like I said, and I'm always going to say, superhero stories are fundamentally power fantasies. And what we're fantasizing, what we're seeing in that scene is this world in which journalists, regular humans, the Fourth Estate, can hold those with much greater power accountable. And those with much greater power will respond. So I'm really excited about how the trailer showed that. Also, I've got to admit, and this might seem to fly in the face of everything I just said, Guy Gardner is my favorite superhero, and so yes, I love the little bit where Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner slaps the person away. That's good Guy Gardner stuff, but that's a video for another time.